This morning, what the decisive Republican victory means to the next legislative session. Which Texas Republicans might go to work for Donald Trump? And how would a Senate race play out if Ken Paxton challenged John Cornyn? With Trump returning to the White House, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick telling us that Texas can now cut some of the billions of dollars it spends on the border. Plus, he says school choice is priority one next year, and what he told me about casino gambling. Texas Democrats now starting from scratch after losing ground in last week's election. What the state party chairman, Gilberto Hinojosa, told us just before he resigned on Friday. And Dallas is about to become unlike any city in the state. Voters passed new props forcing big changes at Dallas City Hall. Councilmember Paula Blackman on the cost that's coming and whether the city has any legal options.
Inside Texas Politics with Jason Whiteley starts now.
Good Sunday morning. I'm Jason Whiteley. A lot to get to, but let's start with the headlines as we always do here. John Cornyn was not on the ballot, but he could benefit big time with the new Republican majority in the U.S. Senate. Cornyn is one of several senators vying to become the next majority leader, the most influential position in that chamber, who leads legislation, among other things. Senators scheduled a vote for Wednesday. The last Texan as Senate majority leader was LBJ back in the 1950s. The largest school bond in Texas history fell in a crashing defeat in Houston. Houston ISD was asking voters for $4.4 billion for new school buildings and upgrades of others. Voters said no, partly because many are upset with the state-appointed superintendent, Mike Miles, and the changes he has made. And the number of blue counties in Texas, it's evaporating on the map here. Donald Trump notably brought down the big blue wall along the border in South Texas. He also got more than half of the Latino vote in this state. Republicans have invested in the Rio Grande Valley for several years now, and that paid off last week. Let's start with that red wave that swept across Texas on Tuesday. Republican wins in last week's election means school vouchers will now likely pass when state lawmakers return to Austin in January. But how about casino gambling? And will Texas keep spending billions of dollars on the border now that Donald Trump got elected? Our first guest this morning, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Governor, welcome back to the program. You announced on Friday school choice is a top priority for the Senate. You're going to give it a top number bill-wise, too, which really means it's going to be a top priority. What kind of plan do you want senators to pass?
Now, we're going to pass a robust bill for all families because we believe that parents should have a choice where to send their child. And I want to put down all the rhetoric out there by the opposition who says, oh, it's going to undermine public education. Let me just give you these couple of numbers. Last session, we put $39 billion approximately into public education for 5.5 million children in public school. We created a fund of $500 million compared to $39 billion, okay? $500 million for about 50,000 children whose parents believe they need choice. And that may be because maybe their child just is in a school, even if it's an A or B school, that doesn't fit them. So on Friday, I announced it would be Senate Bill number 2 because the budget is always number 1 each session. So Senate Bill number 2 will be our school choice bill. I'm asking the governor to put it on the emergency call and make it the first bill that we pass because we're not allowed to pass bills under the Constitution until March. But if he makes it an emergency item, we can take it up the first week. We will be ready in the Senate to pass it out immediately.
And if this passes next session, how soon would it take effect? But by the fall, would it be immediately or September 1st?
Well, it's one of the reasons I'd like to pass it first, and I think the governor wants to get it out early too, so that we can start working on it and schools can be prepared for that. So it just depends on the timing. Would it be ready for September of next year or the following year? Because you have to set up the system through the comptroller's office because the way it works, the parents don't get the money, Jason. The money goes to the private school that the parents choose. So you have to set up this mechanism, plus you have to have people apply. So it's a not cumbersome, but it's a system that you have to put in place so that it can move smoothly. So I don't know if that would be for September. That would be our goal, September of 25. But if not, it would be the following year.
School choice priority number 1. Let's talk about the budget surplus that the state is going to have again, too. People are, hate paying the property taxes in the state. Do you expect that surplus is going to be applied to the property taxes we all pay?
We're going to continue to do that. I've been a champion on this forever. When I came into Lieutenant Governor in 2015, your homestead exemption was $15,000. I raised it to $25,000, $40,000, and now $100,000 and $110,000 for seniors.
What's it going to go to next session? Any idea?
Jason, I want to see how much money we have. I want to see all of our priorities, but it will be, last session was massive, and we will make a significant cut again. Remember, Jason, anytime we do that, we have to know that we do it every session.
Let's talk about last Tuesday's election.
Yes.
You were one of the few to predict, in Texas at least that I know of, the huge decisive win that Donald Trump and Republicans got. What will that mean for Texas, do you think, over the next 4 years?
Jason, let me just say, it's always great when you're in state government to have a great friend in the White House. We have a great friend once again in the White House. In the last 4 years, we've had virtually zero communication from Biden or his administration on the border or anything else. I can't wait until we get there in January. You know, Jason, we've spent $4 billion in our budget the last 3 sessions now to secure the border since Joe Biden's been president, because we had to do everything we could to protect our citizens. Well, we're going to be able to take a lot of that money now and put it back to our taxpayers for roads, for water, for education, for health care, for all the things that we need that Joe Biden forced us to spend because he was letting millions of people cross the border, criminals and terrorists. I mean, we know it. Everybody knows it. So that's why he won. That's why he won. So it's a mandate for Republicans in the state of Texas to continue our conservative path.
I was speaking at an event the other day, and a guy come up to me afterwards and asked me, hey, is the state going to pass and approve casino gambling this next session? I said, great question. I'm actually going to be interviewing the lieutenant governor here shortly. I'll find out. Is there any chance that might pass? Because it's all the talk in Dallas.
Yeah. So, Jason, the Sands particularly, they've been working really hard to get it passed here. And I've continued to say to them that it doesn't have the support of the members because the members don't have the support of their people who want it. When we finished the session, no one called and said, oh, you didn't pass the casino bill. It's not on anyone's top 20 list. It doesn't mean there aren't people who really want it. But like anything else, Jason, it really bubbles up from the ground to tell a House member or a senator that they want this legislation to pass. And that just has not happened. Look, I just said a moment ago, in the House last session, they were within 3 votes of passing out a casino bill. It was every Democrat, and I believe 28 out of 85 Republicans who voted for it. You don't pass major legislation in a red conservative state with the Democrats controlling the show, particularly on a major bill like that. I'm not leading the parade on it. I'm not stopping the parade on it. But we do not pass bills where only 20% or 25% of the elected officials support it. We just don't do that on any bill. So it doesn't have the support. And the casino people have tried, well, it's all about the Senate, it's all about Dan Patrick, or it's all about whomever. No, they've never worked the vote. They've come in and spent millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they just think, well, magically it happens. It doesn't. And by the way, if a bill ever started to get close and moving, you're going to hear from the other side. You're going to hear from the pastors. You're going to hear from the business community. You're going to hear from the citizens who oppose it. Right now, you haven't even heard from them because they know what I know. The votes aren't there. So I know there are people who want it. We're not trying to tell people what they should do in their lifestyle. I'm just saying the votes aren't there for it. And we'll have 6,000 bills filed, Jason, probably this session. That's about what happens every year. We don't give a hearing to any bill that doesn't have support. Right. We don't have the time.
Governor, we always appreciate the time, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
When we come back this morning, the state chairman for Texas Democrats on the trouncing that his party took in last week's election. And Dallas City Hall considering whether it can fight voters' wishes on 2 controversial ballot measures that passed. Inside Texas Politics, back in a moment. Welcome back to Inside Texas Politics. Dallas voters passed 2 propositions on Election Day that will drastically change City Hall. The first requires Dallas to raise police pay and hire hundreds of new officers. And the second one lets citizens sue officials if they don't do it. Councilmember Paula Blackman on what happens now at City Hall. Councilwoman, welcome back.
Thank you for having
Dallas voters approved 2 of these 3 controversial propositions. What happens next? Does the city implement these? Is the city going to court over them? One of your colleagues sat in that chair and said there's no way that we're going to allow this to happen without going to see a judge first.
I think we're going to go probably into executive session to understand what and if there is any legal recourse. Anything can happen when you go to the courts. But I think the voters have made it clear of what they want from their city government.
If these are implemented, what would this mean to the city budget on requiring Dallas to hire 900 new police officers?
It would put a hit to the budget. I mean, it's
what
a
does that mean,
$175 million price tag. And that's and we also have to remember we have to train them. So just because we even could hire them and we have it in the budget, they need to be trained. But let's also not forget that it's hard to hire a police officer these days, and you can't just order it, right?
Anywhere it's hard.
Anywhere's hard. So we hope that we can make that if that is the case. But it means that you would have to get rid of your parks department, your libraries, and $10 million more. So that library that I had that I saved this past year, it's the frog in the pot. And so, people are going to experience a real hit to those quality of life things that make a city vibrant and viable.
There's no other money to keep the Parks Department going or libraries going?
No, because we have a cap on our budget and how much money we can bring in.
And is that hyperbole at all, though, to close the Parks Department, to close the Library Department? People are going to see that.
I'm just showing what
the
that
actual
budget, what if you look at your own household income and if you're making cuts, you go, okay, well, vacations off the table, right? You go, that car payment that has to be made, but you know what? I may not be driving it as much. So you start looking at your budgets and what are those big pots. Does it mean the whole thing will go away? No, but just to put it into terms, $175 million is the Parks Department, the library budget, and $10 million more.
Did the opposition campaign start too late against these propositions?
I don't know. Monday morning quarterbacking is fun, right? I mean, you can kind of look back. Did we? I mean, I was part of that. No.
Sure.
Did we start too late? It was hard getting out of the chute. I'll be honest. But I think this has been resonating, Jason, with the voters and the residents of Dallas for a while. I mean, whether violent crime, and as much as we talk about it, it's coming down, they still experience property crimes. Their Amazon box is getting taken from their porch, or their windows being bashed in on their car. And those are valid feelings that we need to respond to Dallas residents and Dallas voters. The suing of us, I think what they've said is, we want more action than just the ballot box. We want to be able to say, City Hall, you need to work for us and, fix the potholes, public safety, and parks. And so that's what I'm digesting now is what does this all mean from the voters' perspective?
Councilwoman, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now the Texas Democrats, they not only got trounced in last week's election, they actually lost ground, routed by Republicans. The morning after the election, I called the chairman of the Texas Democratic Party, Gilberto Hinojosa. Days after this interview we did here, you're about to see, he announced he would step down. Who would you say is at fault for this defeat? I mean, you guys it wasn't a defeat. You guys lost ground from the previous election cycles. Who do you blame for it?
Well, I blame the billionaires to some extent. I mean, we can't match that money. When the national government does not provide you any money, when national donors decide to fund little interest groups and not give any money to the party, how do you compete with the money of billionaires funding these campaigns of Myra Flores and all the other people that they were funding? I mean, how do you compete against the fact that if you turned on the TV, Myra Flores was in there, Mr. Hinojosa that was running against Morgan Lamantilla, Ted Cruz, all these people were in the media nonstop, and we had no money to counter that except for the money that was by the candidates. They had a ground game that they put together, funded by the billionaires. We were not able to compete with that until the National Party decides to invest in Texas. We're being left alone to fight this fight without any resources.
Mr. Chairman, Donald Trump has now twice defeated a woman candidate against him from the Democrats. Is this country not ready for a female president?
I think what happened was, and this is something that was unavoidable, when Joe Biden took so long to withdraw from this race. I mean, he should have withdrawn. In fact, he should never have announced from the very beginning. He should have withdrawn much earlier. There wasn't enough chance to allow the party leadership to select a nominee. Joe Biden selected that nominee for us, and we had to go with whoever the president selected in the 3 month period we had left to campaign for that position. He put us, Joe Biden put us in an impossible position. America did not know Kamala Harris. They did not know anything about her. They were then asked to jump on board within a 3 month period. Had we had a full primary election where we had candidates out there, even if they would have had an opportunity to meet her and get to know her better, they didn't have that opportunity, or would have given someone else an opportunity to run. When he did what he did, he put us in a very difficult position. That, and then all the other issues that we were left with, which first and foremost was the immigration issue. So I don't know whether that's the fact that we can't elect a female president. I think it's the circumstances that we were left in.
After that shellacking on Tuesday night, I've heard from some Democrats who say that the state party just needs to be reset. It needs a change at the top. What do you say to those Democrats of yours that want you to hand off leadership to someone else?
Well, I agree that the leadership in the state has to be winning elections. And I'm fine with that. I mean, if people want me to step aside, I'll step aside. But the bottom line is that all the Democratic leaders in this state, at every large county in this state, suffered defeats of the same nature. At the end of the day, it was a lot of circumstances beyond the control of anybody else. It is very difficult for the Texas Democratic Party to control an election in its state when the national party refuses to provide the resources necessary to do that in the second largest state in the United States.
Mr. Chairman, we always appreciate you making time for us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So where does the Texas Democratic Party start to rebuild? We will start there next on the Roundtable. All right, time now for Reporters Roundtable to put the headlines in perspective. Joining us each week, I am Mitra from the Texas Tribune. Bud Kennedy is here from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and Bernadine Steptoe, political producer at WFAA in Dallas. Bud, let's start with Texas Democrats in disarray. Where in the world does this party start to rebuild?
Well, Democrats have always been more focused on Washington. Democrats look to Washington for leadership. They got their congressmen reelected, all their members of Congress. But the problem is that Democrats try to fix everything in Washington. Democrats have to start at the state and local level. They've been on a downhill slide ever since the National Party made them break quorum and go to Washington. The Democrats have lost power in the legislature, lost power in the state. The Democrats have to rebuild from the county and local level, get the local people who know their communities, who know what works in local campaigns, and who know how to win local campaigns.
And that is easier said than done. This party actually lost ground this election. They haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, and we just heard the state Democratic Party chair, Gilberto Hinojosa, talk about the kind of national state divide within the party too. There's just this, in the state, there's just this frustration with the national party in terms of not investing in Texas. But ultimately, the relationship building is key, building from the ground up, and you saw the results of a lack of that ability in South Texas, and so that is something that they have to look at. They have to look at some new voices to kind of represent the party, to build relationships, and to really address the issues that are coming up that they don't seem to be perceived to be really focused on.
Bernadine, I think about the Democratic stars in the state, Lena Hidalgo, Clay Jenkins, Jasmine Crockett, the Castro brothers. Did they play a role in this?
Well, they could, but let me sort of address what you said initially on how do they start. I think that they've already started by replacing the head. Hinojosa did resign. But, and then also, as mentioned, stop thinking so much about national, because you raise your money statewide as well, and put money into the state structure.
But that's one of the complaints they had is that, hey, the Republicans have billionaires, Hinojosa said. We don't have those.
Please. The vice president in her run raised $1 billion in 100 days. Yeah. The money is there, but which goes to another problem. They need to fundraise. They don't have the money locally that they need to focus on because the money is there apparently. is there. It's just that they need to know how to raise it. And I think changing the leadership, changing the top is a start.
But let's talk about the huge Republican wave, red wave that swept across this state. Who leaves Texas and goes to work for the new Trump administration?
Well, I think there's a good chance we see Sid Miller maybe. He's been knocking on the door. Ken Paxton's been knocking on the door, but Trump hasn't been responsive to Paxton yet. He's always, complimented Paxton, but he's never hired Paxton to be an attorney. And then you have some of the people who campaigned so feverishly for him, like Elon Musk, Joe Rogan. They're Texans.
Two Texans indeed. Let me ask you this. How does a Senate race play out if Ken Paxton were to challenge John Cornyn?
Oh gosh, what a race that would be! Certainly we'd have to also see, what's going on with the economy in 2026 and how the Trump administration is going, and certainly Ken Paxton, he has a strong voice here. Obviously he's really kind of aligned himself with President Trump, and so it'll be interesting to see, because John Cornyn is also kind of working to be the Senate Majority Leader. Where that goes, we'll see. But if he has that power, that's an interesting dynamic there in that as well.
Final word, Bernadine.
Well, it definitely is going to be interesting, because this state is trending even more conservative or ultra conservative. So it'd be interesting as to who could win. It's going to be quite a race.
If the race materializes indeed, though, that's the thing.
Because Cornyn might.
We need to give credit to Greg Abbott. If he had not started busing migrants to other parts of the country wouldn't have been as aware of the border problems. He may have won the election.
All right, guys, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Thank you for watching as well. We're back next Sunday to take you inside Texas politics, and we hope to see you then.